Okay. Sicilian. Let's see how white reacts to it. Closed Sicilian, open Sicilian, none of the above, Smith, Morra, Gambit. And to that, I almost always just say, you know what? No thank you. No thanks. I'm sure white is booked up. That's one way to maybe look at things. Maybe. That's at least the way I'm kind of looking at it. If my opponent is running with d4, chop, c3, the Smith, Morra, Gambit, probably booked up. And I'm not. I don't know any of the lines. So, let's take him out of familiar turf there. So now what? This seems like a good start. Where else is he going to go? Knight f6, queen c7. I might try to do a fishing pole setup. Might not be a bad idea, even in this setup here. Let's try it. Retaining some flexibility here. This is may seem like a bit premature to bring the queen out like this, but sometimes you'll see this in the Sicilian, and one of the reasons is to watch over e5 and also, again, retain flexibility with these guys right here. So right now with this move, basically saying, of course, I'm not going to be going for any pin on the knight, but my bishop might be wanting to play here, and well, it can't be playing to c5 now, can it? Alright, knight here. Yeah, knight here is right. Looking at that g4 square. Another one is going to be what? Another one is going to be a6. Okay. Knight f1, apparently heading for g3. Oh, I got it. It's just having to ignore spectators there. Got it. a6, bishop d6, knight g4 are all candidate moves. I like... Is it even needed to play a6? Yeah, you know what? What's going on here? I'm getting caught up in the routine. Do you see what I almost just did there? Getting caught up in the routine. That is absolutely unnecessary. There's no knight on c3 that's going to be making use of b5. And I really wouldn't be doing this a6 move in order to play b5. Because I think a4 would come real quick, and I don't want this position to open up too soon. I think I am the underdeveloped side, so I'll want to take that into account, the possibility, in other words, for white to maybe open up the position. So now what? Castles, maybe a4 by white, looking to maybe get in a5 as soon as my knight moves and is no longer controlling a5. You could be seeing this a-pawn come in tension with this guy. And I'm not so sure I really want to allow the light square bishops to be exchanged. So I'm going to go with a6 right now, which is stopping bishop a6. And the reason why I think it's a good idea to prevent the light square bishops from being exchanged is because I am valuing my light square bishop better than theirs. It's on a wonderful diagonal. I think that is for as long as I maintain control of this pawn advance, as long as I maintain control of this e5 square, this bishop really isn't going to be any problem for me here. So I could play d6, I could play my bishop here, I could play my bishop here. If I'm playing d6, I could forget about that. I'm going to do this because I'm viewing this position as one where my d-pawn has more flexibility than my bishop. It's a rare case, but that's kind of how I'm viewing it right here. Maybe I'll play d6 or d5. If I did d5 right away, my king is in some trouble. So I'm doing bishop e7 so I could get d5 in maybe. Maybe on my very next move or after I have first castled. It'll of course be much safer if I'm castled before I play d5 and there's both open files right here. But I'm certainly looking into it. That will allow this bishop to come to life. That's maybe a little bit of a drawback, actually. It's said that on the Sicilian side, or excuse me, on the black side of the Sicilian, getting in d5 is often the equalizing move. But maybe this is an exception because it's not always the case that this king-knight makes its journey over here to the king side. And there already are two bishops bearing down on my king side, two knights in close proximity to my king as well, instead of the typical one knight. And now I guess f4 is ready to be played. I think this is a mistake. I think. Because what do I do? After I just kick him away, he has to run back. Yeah, let's kick him away. I think looking back on this position, there's certainly an improvement with this last move by White, as far as I could tell. I don't know that this pawn push, the weakness that it has created on g6, you know, that's the one square I weakened slightly. I don't know that it's really exploitable. So that said, you know, was it worth the time invested? I'm not so sure. d5. What else do I have here? How else do I get my rooks working? I think this is the right idea. I think it is okay to allow this bishop to spring to life on this diagonal. Push, takes, takes. I'm on the bishop. And I'm also maybe getting ready to play here with a fork on these two. I'm looking to pick up the bishop pair essentially with this move right now. So let's see how things work out. Maybe there's some sacrifices on this square. I don't think right now it's really working. They have less than 1 minute to figure it all out. And what is this knight move doing? Okay, I guess still trying to get this f pawn advance in, but I think now I'm able to play this knight here, because what is it no longer doing? I see what it is doing, and this, what I'm saying right here, is very important in chess, to question, ask yourself two questions. What is the piece doing? What is it no longer doing? It's clearing the way for the f pawn to advance. What is it not doing? It's now watching over e5, and I'm pretty sure making use of this square right now is good. Hitting the bishop, and now this pawn is being hit for a third time indirectly by this bishop. 2 times directly, once indirectly. If push, I take, and then I take here, I'm winning a pawn. If bishop pin, I break the pin. If bishop takes knight, I recapture. f4 is not available. And I think now I just do this. And I'm up a pawn. A clear pawn here. Bishop pin, I break the pin right away. I have this as a pivot square, and maybe even there's some tricks with the f3 square, but very little time to sort this all out. The position has opened up, and this knight is a bit offsides now. Less than 10. Trying to remove a defender of my king side. I think knight here is best. I'm really not too excited about bringing this queen into my territory. So, and I'm okay with giving a pawn back, just so that the position has stayed open. And I think I still have an advantage here. Let's just threaten a mate. G2. No time to figure it all out. Good game. Let me back up here. Let me see something. Okay, let's hit that back button. And what else? What's the scoop here from your perspective? From your perspective. Okay, so you're playing the white side. What are you doing? Smith, Morra, Gambit. Keep in mind, you do not need to recapture this right away. If you really want to, just play c4 and say to yourself, you know what, I'm gonna run forward with Maroxy bind and guard d5, follow up with knight c3. So look into this idea. It's one thing you could be running with. There's no rush with taking this pawn. He's going nowhere. c4, knight here, even on your next move, and then you could be recapturing. But keep that in mind. c4, knight c3. I don't know if this is, well, I think there's got to be maybe a little bit better of a setup. How about this? I don't know about the knight journey. I think the knight position is fine here, but if you're going to try to get this f-pawn advance in, maybe look to this knight move. I think that's where my main suggestion is going to come later on. But don't go with this knight coming around here. I'm not so sure about that. Maybe you could keep it around to maybe focus on this b6 square or something. The knight playing here, or maybe a pawn push and then the d6 square. I think get more development in. Get castled instead of running with the knight f1 to g3. You'll see that in the Roy Lopez. I don't know how good it would be in this setup, but it could certainly be wrong. These are, again, just very rough thoughts from, I mean, just a 5-minute game. And right here is definitely going to be the other one. So instead of that knight move, you really do want to maybe make sure you could get this f-pawn advance in. Maybe knight to d4 is going to be better, so you could get this in. Of course, your knight is a little tender right there. As soon as you move that pawn, it's a little bit weakening. If you are going to try and get this f-pawn advance in, g3 is a weakness. It would definitely be considered a hole at that point. So, let me see something here. Okay. Well, that's my main thing, I think. You know, don't go with the knight maneuver. Consider just castle right away, knight d4 and f4. And at this point, instead of knight g5, what could be something better? Knight d4. Knight d4 with the f4 idea, I think, is going to be better here. So I think now it's trouble. I get that d5 break in, and now my pieces are jumping into good squares, and I'm up a pawn, and it's a big deal being up a pawn right now. Fully developed, so the improvements are much earlier. If you are going to run with the knight move, consider knight d4. You have the right idea, because eventually you ended up playing your knight to h2 with a similar idea to try and get f4, but it just wasn't happening, right?